computer. Hi, I'm Elaine Brewster. Welcome to Aspects of Energy, where we talk about ways to raise your energy. And today we have a very special guest. He is actually my energy worker, Deepak Chari. He is an engineer. Okay, I hope that got recorded. It says it's recording now. We'll just hope that it got recorded. But today our guest is Deepak Chari. He's part of the Chari Center. He is an engineer and a certified biofeedback specialist. His site, which we'll put on here now that it's recording, is fastanxietyhelp, HELP.com. That's his personal site. And you know that most of these, you see by my flyer, that all of these calls have something to do with this book about my husband's cancer journey that will be coming out this summer. And energy work was a huge, huge thing that we did with Scott. And it literally changes you at a cellular level. I personally feel that counseling and therapy is a very important thing, but oftentimes that, to me, it's more intellectual, and it brings to the mind things that maybe people don't want to admit or think about. And so as it brings that honesty and brings things to the surface, then things can change. Well, Deepak does it differently, and I think it's faster and you know, and more thorough. So I am just going to hand that to you, Deepak, and go for it.
Thank you so much, Elaine. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and thank you for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to have all of your guests here as well. Yes, as she was describing my work, I've been doing this work since 2013. It's what I call advanced voice biofeedback, and it uses the sound of your voice. Why? Because the sound of your voice is the most accurate reflection of your perception. That is the meaning you give to events and circumstances and events in your life. And I found it's the most accurate way of finding out what's going on in someone's subconscious, things that they don't even know is there. So a little bit of introduction about myself. Again, I'm Deepak Chari. I'm an engineer and certified biofeedback specialist. And as Elaine mentioned, I work with my sister. We both founded together in 1999 at the Chari Center of Health. And in case you're wondering, the website for our main center, it's www.charicenter.com. That's I'll actually post it in the chat here, www.charicenter.com. That's our main center. And I have a separate website, which I mentioned earlier in the chat. You'll see in the chat room, which is www.fastanxietyhelp, that's HELP.com, which I posted in the room, the chat right above that. That's my website, which is my actual work, more detailed of what I do. So this work is based on the sound of your voice, as I mentioned, the most accurate reflection of your perception of how you see the world, perceive the world. Where did these perceptions come from? These perceptions come from, I say, 4 phases. The first phase is from the time of conception. And I'm being very blunt and direct here, but from the time that your parents conceive of you, they want to have a child, whatever emotions, feelings, or even unresolved emotions they had from their entire life, traumas, addictions, tragedies, anger management issues, depression, fears, phobias, that they have within them at that moment of conception. As I said, I'm being very direct here. The mom and dad both, that literally goes into creating you as a person. And so that's what I call phase 1. So that's, think of yourself as a brand new hard drive from the store. There's nothing on there, clean hard drive, right? So someone is taking a flash drive from your mom, the unresolved issues, or maybe negative thinking or thought viruses, or you might say, and putting that in your hard drive. And then you're taking it from your mom and your dad both into your hard drive. There's nothing there before. So that's already coming into the mix. Phase 2 is you're in your mom's womb for about 9 months, right? During that time, whatever feelings or emotions that your mom has, or unresolved emotions she has, you're going to have as well, because you're directly connected to your mom. So let's say frustrations with your dad, fights, arguments. While they're having all those, you're like going, hello, I can hear all that. By the way, I know you don't know this step, I can hear all that. It's like a loudspeaker. So the kid will pick all of that up, the infant in there, and as well as the emotions and chemical feelings that the mom is having. Oh, I thought I was going to be free. Now I won't be able to travel and do the things I want to do. Now I have an extra kid to take care of besides the other ones before. Now my life is limited in how, in case she's thinking those things or other frustrations. I wanted to do this in my career. Now I travel along around the world and be a model or whatever it is. Now I'm a little limited what I can do. She's going to get all those feel here. The child will get all that too. Phase 3, now you're born. You come out into the world, the new world, and now you have the direct interaction with your parents and or grandparents who sometimes are there too. And you pick up the perceptions of all of those, because whatever they think or feel, you just absorb. There's 2 phases of absorption. So you're in the world now from age 0 to about 7. Basically, whatever is said is done by the parents and or grandparents or other influential people in your life, teachers, mentors, uncles, aunts, things like that. You just absorb as the gospel truth. You're slow. You'll never amount to anything. Why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? Um, you know, you're not as smart as them or as talented as them. Why can't you be better like them? Or, things like that. The kid will take that literally. Literally, they'll just take that without any questioning. Now, then from age 8 to 12, or I would say age 8 to 13 or 14, you're kind of thinking like, well, do I agree with what mom or dad is saying? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Man, it's probably true. You're still kind of in a malleable stage. So essentially from age 0 to 14, that's your whole model of the world, of how you see the world. You just accept it point blank. You don't question anything. So for the most part. So now you have these, like at the glasses I'm wearing, you have these tinted glasses of the world of how you see the world. So let's say you go to higher levels of education, Harvard, Yale, and all those things. You have tons of degrees, masters, even PhD. Say, I know I'm really intelligent, have all these degrees now. But you're still looking at the world through those same glasses you had when you were 0 to 14. The same, you'll take all the intelligence supposedly and put it through the filter of the glasses and justify why you're going to do certain things. Get in certain relationships, get in certain traumatic jobs or abusive bosses or abusive relationships or friends or business situations. These things seem random and don't seem to make any sense, but they're really not random, because it's those 4 phases I talked about: conception, the time you're in your mom's womb, and then you're birthed with all of everyone that you saw. And then phase 4 is where you take all those patterns from phase 1, 2, and 3, and you duplicate those patterns in your own life and create those same circumstances and situations as your mom, your dad, and their parents, your grandparents. You repeat that same pattern over and over again, kind of like the movie Groundhog Day. So then you create that same circumstance again in your life. Now you have your own traumas, which have their own energy besides the ones from the past. So that's what creates all those situations. As people say to me, of the thousands I've worked on, they say, whoa, Deepak, I got this bizarre situation and I'm an honest, good person. Why would I draw this kind of person in my life who's unethical and dishonest and all those different things and angry? And that's not me at all. True. But that's the imprints you picked up from your parents and grandparents. Maybe some of them were angry. Maybe they died before you were born. You didn't even know who they are, but they had major anger issues. But you downloaded the imprint from them, a high percentage of that person who you didn't know, which is what happens from the time of conception, into your DNA. See, from the time of conception, you don't only, I mentioned about the parents, but I forgot to mention you also download the imprints of your grandparents too. And there's many people who I've worked on, and it's who may download 90 some percent or more of the imprints of the grandparents, even more than their own parents. So they'll actually act, behave, and even do the same patterns of behavior, which might have been destructive from the past, in their own life. No, and other relatives will listen to those grandkids and they'll say, did you notice how little Janie, when she speaks, she kind of talks like grandma. She kind of talks slow and she has a little, kind of slow movement to her voice, and she has a certain mannerism with her shoulders. But grandma died before she was born, way before she was born. How could she know what grandma was like? Well, that's because that imprint from the DNA, the emotional imprint and the characteristics imprint and those unresolved issues downloaded right to her, even more than the parents. So that can override even what the parents had, even more so. That's why some of the kids will be more like the grandparents than the parents, and that's why these patterns repeat. What I do is I help clear the limiting imprints of those parents and grandparents. And we keep all the good stuff, all the wisdom and all the wonderful things of those people. But anything that's what I call disharmonious to your life from your parents and grandparents is what I clear from your life. These imprints. Why? Because as I said, if you don't clear these imprints, they will repeat over and over and over again. And the one thing as I learned from my mentor when I first learned this technology is I need to only go back to their direct parents and grandparents, not necessarily before that. These patterns carry on, from seven generations or beyond. But I only need to clear it from your current generation, parents and grandparents, because whatever essence that you picked up, the essential part that's affecting your life is from them, and it'll clear it from before. This is a common question I get asked, so I thought I'd mention that as well. So this work, as an engineer, I was learning about things called harmonic variances and sympathetic coherence and sympathetic harmonic. And I didn't understand, I was thinking, okay, I got to get through this class and, just get through the sound class in physics. But I found out that there's actual aspects to this that make sense, that literally connect to the work I'm doing now, because I was started as an engineer and I'm now doing this work in healing. And it seems like a complete difference from what I'm doing, but actually it's closer than ever. Sympathetic resonance is what I was actually referring to. So let's imagine you have two pianos next to each other, okay? On the first piano, I'm sitting at the first piano and you're sitting at the second piano. And on the first piano, I hold down the pedal key and I hit the note D. Boom, let's say boom, boom. And on the second piano, I say, don't touch the piano. Just put your ear close to the piano. Don't touch it though. Now we're talking about not the digital kind, the analog, the old fashioned kind. So when you place your ear near the second piano, boom, you're going to hear boom on the second piano. Then I go to F, boom, and you hear boom. Whatever note I hit on the first piano, you hear resonating on the second piano. How could that be? That's the concept of sympathetic resonance, meaning that the harmonic resonance from the string that I hit from the first key of the first piano resonates the similar note and the upper and lower octaves of the second note on the second piano. So then that note is heard on the second piano. That's called sympathetic resonance. So I apply the same concept with what I do with your voice. I listen to your voice. And let's say you're talking about a challenge you had in your life, abusive relationship or abusive boss or a business deal that you got cheated on, or a relationship you got cheated on, or something like that, something upsetting. Now, instead of hearing harmony in your voice, I'll hear disharmony in your voice. It's the equivalent of a piano where some of the keys are stuck. They're not, it's a great piano, but it's your favorite song, but the key notes in your song of that favorite song are stuck, which means that the song's going to sound like bump, 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 like that. So what I do is resonate the stuck keys, because those emotions of depression, anger, frustration from those challenging circumstances you had in your life, those emotions, certain emotions, are squashing certain keys of your internal piano. You see, we have, let's say, 60 trillion cells, and each cell has its own piano in it. And each of those cells, each of those mini pianos in each cell has different keys that are stuck in all those cells at the same time. So when I refer to subconscious, people think, oh, you're talking about my head. No, I'm not talking about your head. It's part of it. Your subconscious is your whole energetic being and every cell in your body. So those keys are stuck in each cell, meaning they're not playing, because those emotions of depression, anger, frustration, apathy, and grief or fear is squashing certain keys. Certain emotions also will squash different notes of your internal piano. In other words, anger will squash different notes of your internal piano, fear, different ones, overwhelm, trauma, different notes. So those notes will be squashed. So therefore, those notes are not heard. Guess what? If those notes are not heard, you are not heard. And if you're not heard, you're also not seen. One of the comments I get from people is that, Deepak, I'm telling people important things at workplace and the relationship, but it's like they don't even see me, like I'm invisible or something. But I'm obviously not invisible, so how come they don't hear or see me or value me? But they value everybody else. I'll say, well, you know what? when I listen to your voice too, with my sophisticated technology and even with my own ear at this point, I don't really hear you either. And I'm just being honest with you. And that's because those emotions that you have from some past experience, it's always a past experience. Remember, if you're having a trigger now, that's another key point, is squashing those certain keys of your internal piano. So much so, maybe you have 12 keys in this piano. If anyone didn't have music theory, here's a crash course. There are 12 main notes of your internal keyboard, and those repeat. Those are known as octaves. Well, if 3 or 4 of the 12 notes are squashed or not heard or seen, or you don't hear those notes, then that's how many of the 12 is not heard. So let's say 4 of the 12 are not heard, a third of the notes of your voice are not heard, then you definitely won't be seen. Even if less probably won't be seen either. That's why someone can give a great presentation, like some of the clients I've talked to, some of my experiences had, and they're not seen or heard. Like no one comes up to their table or gets their courses or books or anything. But their presentation was very compelling. How come they weren't acknowledged? They'll come to my office. They'll say, Deepak, look at my PowerPoints. Look at all my stuff. What's going on? What do I need to change? I'll look at it and I'll go, because I already know the answer. I'll say, nothing. What? Nothing. But no one responded. No one clapped. I went through all these traumas and I came out successfully. I said, yeah, the only thing that we need to correct here is yourself, because your PowerPoint's perfect. It's just that you weren't seen or heard. And if you're not seen or heard, they just think like nobody's speaking. It doesn't trigger them. It doesn't. So I said, let me clear all this imprint for you. And I want you to give the same exact PowerPoint presentation you did to the same audience again, similar audience again. You're kidding me. You want me to do the same presentation again and be humiliated? I said, no, I want you to give the same presentation again and give me your feedback. Don't assume you'll be humiliated. So she did that and she came back to me and said, Deepak, you're not going to believe this. I gave the exact same presentation word for word. This time, for the first time in my life, of all those countless presentations I got a standing ovation. Everyone stood on their feet. That never happened before. Then after that, they ran up to my table. They bought all my books. They signed up for my courses. That has not happened before. This is unbelievable. What is the difference here? I said, the difference is you. You were seen and heard. You were acknowledged. And when you were seen and heard, they could feel you. They could hear you. They could really acknowledge what you went through and appreciate what you went through. So that's what made all the difference. It was you, not your PowerPoint presentation. In fact, it doesn't matter what you say as long as they can feel what you're saying. So that was a really exciting testimony from her. And I've got so many in so many other areas. I had another case study of a woman. She worked with these male supervisors, and she was totally ignored. And she had incredible ideas of how to save, $500,000 on this job and save on this other job. She proposed the ideas like, instead of doing it this way, guys, you need to do this. Otherwise, you're going to lose money on this deal. They didn't listen to her because I guess they didn't hear her. And they, of course, lost, $500,000 to more on those deals. Then said, gosh, I wish we had a solution for this. She goes, I've been telling you the whole time. She said some other expletives I won't say. You, boop, 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 to herself, of course. And then she came to me and said, Deepak, I'm so frustrated. I've given them so many ideas of how to improve the business. They didn't follow anything I said, and they lost tons and tons of money, hundreds of thousands. That could have been easily avoided. Why is that? And I listened to her voice. Again, the same thing. I said, because I don't hear you. And if I don't hear you, I won't see you. She said, it's that simple? I said, yeah, it is. But the goal is we need to clear that. We need to do this process of, as I call, sympathetic resonance and harmonic balance to release that pattern. So I released all those limiting patterns that happened with her, which came back to her childhood, actually. That's the reason they started. Cleared all that, restored her harmonic resonance. I said, go talk to those guys again. They blew those deals, but there's always something around the horizon that they can improve. So she, of course, is very creative and innovative. So she said, guys, there's a new project you guys are working on. You have to follow this plan because otherwise you're going to blow it and you're going to lose millions this time, not just $500,000. So this time they go, oh my God, that's the most incredible idea we have ever heard. You know what? You should tell us more ideas like that, because then we wouldn't have lost that $500,000 on that previous deal. So these are actual case studies of, she turned her eyes up, but she understood what I was saying. These are actual case studies of people I've worked with, and I have so many cases like that. And one of the other side benefits of this work I do with people is you get a great speaking and singing voice. This is especially great if you're a singer, and I've worked with a lot of those, or a speaker, and I've worked with a lot of those as well, including Elaine. And If you're not seen and heard, again, it's because of your voice. So and after I work with them, like I've worked with singers who are not able to hit the right notes in the right way. Like they'll get to a certain note and they'll just kind of crack there. And they'll have vocal coaches for decades. Okay. So they're professional. But the vocal coach, even with all the different diaphragmatic techniques, can't seem to help them to get to those notes. The like 30 different diaphragmatic techniques. I mean, have you ever heard a singer when they hit a certain note, they hit it, but maybe they had an off day, maybe they had a fight in a relationship or their business manager or something like that. And when they gave their performance, you go, yeah, she did it, but just didn't quite feel totally there, you know? And she hit the right note, or it seemed close to the note. Well, that's because these imprints literally squash the note or distort the note or cause it to kind of make an irritating sound of that same note, like it's off tune. So anyway, I worked with these singers and I had them do their performance again and again, standing ovation, given roses, and all those kinds of things. And their vocal teacher would say, how did you hit that note? Which diaphragmatic technique did you do? Because I gave you about 30. They didn't seem to work before, but they seemed to work tonight. Which one did you do? I'm just curious. Maybe it was a lucky streak. I didn't use a single diaphragmatic technique at all. I used nothing. Then that's not possible. How could you sing like that? You sang better than you've ever sang before. Well, there's this guy named Deepak, and what? Oh, let me get his name. I want to go see see who he is. So I had a lot of these vocal coach teachers come and see me and say, how did you do that? And then I would explain my program. So the thing is, you don't have to be a top singer or top speaker, but you will get a voice like that. And that's a good thing, because isn't that how we communicate with our outer world? And we communicate with everyone. I don't care if it's one person or two people. If they don't hear or see you, it doesn't matter if you had an audience of people, it'll be the same pattern. So that's why this is very powerful. And don't we all secretly like to sing to ourselves? I know we all do. And why not? We're all made in the image of the creator. So if everything's at its optimal level, we're going to have an angel-like voice. Why wouldn't we love that? Well, that's one of the exercises I give my clients, is to, after we do a couple of sessions and get things kind of moving underway, I say, I want you to sing to yourself and listen to your voice and really appreciate and acknowledge yourself. And you'll be able to do things with your voice that you never thought you could do. You know, like you'll be, oh my God, listen to that. And guess what? When you do that, you acknowledge and appreciate yourself, which is something we often don't do. In fact, we might do the opposite. Be hard on ourselves or blame ourselves. Oh, my voice is terrible. I have a horrible voice. I could never sing. I could never crack a tune. I hear this a lot. I'll say, well, that's where we're starting. Just wait till we get to where we want to go. Then you'll listen to your voice. So that's one of the side benefits. And some people just come to me just for that alone. So anyway, that's a little background on my work. Think about this though. You've seen in Alaska, those big icebergs, right? You only see a tiny part of that above the water, right? Well, think of that tiny part above the water, like your conscious mind. What's the conscious mind? Well, I got to go to the store and get these groceries, and I got to pick up these few things, and I've got to do those 5 things by tomorrow. What was the third thing again? Well, there's this huge part below the water, right, of the same iceberg. Well, that's what I call the subconscious mind. I mean, it's a monstrosity. It's 99% of the iceberg. Well, that's our subconscious. What does the subconscious do? Pretty much everything else, not just the grocery list, but it also runs all your organs, all your vital functions, which are trillions of things every second. And by the way, you can't make a mistake on that. You can't forget something on the grocery list there. And it never does. How is that possible? Well, there's something divine going on, right? We're a reflection of the creator. So that's why that happens like that. But also, the subconscious is great. It's almost like a child. It accepts everything in a chaotic random order. That's why we sometimes have crazy dreams where we're flying and we're doing all kinds of amazing things. And we go, yeah, that's normal. Yeah. And because it just accepts it without any questioning. But it also accepts anything without any questioning when we're told things from our parents and grandparents. Oh, you'll never amount to anything. Why are you so slow? You'll just be a ditch digger when you grow up. By the way, these are actual things people have told me. Or why can't you be like her? Why can't you be as smart as her? What does that imply? That I must be dumb, right? So then that becomes their internal dialogue. Those things also go in your subconscious, or what a teacher told you or a mentor taught you. So it's good in a way. It does everything. It runs all your organs and everything, but it also takes on all the imprints of what's going on in your environment. And again, it's your perception of your environment. Why do I say that? Let's say you have 2 twins. One twin perceives her environment differently than the other twin. So one twin excels and the other one goes down in a dark place. Also, each twin might have picked up different percentage of imprints of how the mom looks at things, the dad looks at things, and how the grandparents on both the mom's and dad's side look at things. So even though they're brought up in the same clothes and same school and same classroom, everything, one really excels and one goes downhill because maybe one had the heavier dose of the traumas from some of the ancestors that the other one didn't have. But also, one of the other twins might look at the world differently because the way you look at the world is because of the collection of all the imprints you picked up from your parents and grandparents. That affects it as well. But the neat thing is, nothing is fixed. Everything can change, just like that. Nothing is fixed. That's the key thing. People think, my life is messed up. I have all these problems. I can never change them. Wrong. You can change it in an instant. There's nothing fixed, nothing permanent. That's the great news here. So that's something that you can keep in your mind there, that you don't have to accept that, oh, this is how my life is. No. In fact, there's no limit to how good your life can be. Because as you start clearing these imprints, you just get lighter and lighter, things flow smoother, synchronicities start happening, opportunities, growth. You just feel good for no reason. Like, I feel good because da-da-da happened. No, you just feel good for no reason. I just feel good and happy for no reason. I just feel good. And that's a different thing altogether. You'll draw people in your life that are just like you at a different frequency than before because you release those limiting imprints. And it just keeps going like that. You will see, feel, and hear things you didn't see before because this also expands all your sensories of sight, hearing, sound, and even your intuitive abilities, as I've seen with others. Opportunities come out of nowhere. So many benefits like that. That's a little background to my work and how I work with the harmonics of sound. So I thought I would maybe put a question out there in case anyone has any questions of what I've said so far with what I do or how it can help people. Does anyone have any?
Will you
Elaine, would you like to?
will you tell the story of the 90-year-old who was told something?
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you, Elaine, for telling me about that. I have a great case study. I have many, and this one's a really good one. I had a 90-year-old client who came to me, and it's wonderful that she found out about me. That itself is inspiring. But in her case, she had come to me. She didn't have any will to live. Her husband was very ill. She felt she had no friends. Everyone hated her, and her life was a mess, and she hated herself, and she didn't want to live another day. And she came to me in the last effort for something. And she, by the way, done 66 years of therapy. 60 years of therapy. Clearly, she was in that same situation. So she came to me, and I thought, wow, you've had 6 years of therapy? Let me see how I can turn this around in a very short time. At least I'm not on a different plane. I'm on a different playing field than what is usually done by others, instead of the conventional talk therapy and all that, which I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying that this approach is like going in a rocket ship to other solar systems and galaxies compared to that, from what I've seen. So anyway, I just said to her, I explained about the technology, and she didn't fully understand it, but I told her, you know what? You don't have to worry about that. I'm just explaining how the technology works, but you don't have to know anything about it. I'll take your hand and just walk with me. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Place your hand on this biocommunication hand cradle. Think about this. Close your eyes. Listen to some music in the headset that she'll have in my office or remotely, and just think about these challenging situations in your childhood or early life. That's it. And we do what's called a round. A round is about 3 or 4 minutes, and we do several of these in an hour. So she just started thinking about her past or traumatic situations in her life that were upsetting her, because that's where it all started. And as I worked with her, within a handful, of sessions, I was able to clear her whole life's traumas, tragedies, upsets, anger, sadness, grief, frustration, self-hate, self-worth. All those issues were cleared. And when she was done, she said, I feel fantastic. I said, tell me more. She goes, I feel inspired. I feel happy for no reason, like I was mentioning earlier. So before she had come to me, every time the guard at her, at the residential place that she was at, retirement place she was at, was very mean to her, as she said. He wouldn't help her carry groceries to her place or anything to her place or help her in any way to open doors or anything for her. That's what she said. She had no friends also. When she went back to her place soon after our session, there were all these gifts by her door, by strangers she didn't even know. Apparently, they had heard, maybe during our session somehow, that she knew everyone in the complex, the retirement complex. So she's the key one to come to meet all the other new people coming in somehow. And there's wine bottles and flowers and roses and all kinds of gifts there and candies. Then she found out later on, as she was trying to get her groceries, help with the groceries from her car, that guard that was mean and cruel, as she said to her, came up to her and said, "Ma'am, I noticed you have a lot of groceries here. Is it okay if I help you carry them to your apartment? Because I know this will be very difficult for you to take all of this. Is it okay I help you?" "Of course," she said. So he helped her, and, "Can I help you with the door? Can I help walk you to your place?" And he helped her inside her place as well. Apparently that didn't happen before, according to her. So suddenly he's helping her like crazy. And she's like, "Did I enter another place, a dimension or something? Like, what's going on?" And suddenly she had more friends than she knew what to do with. So she came to me in a follow-up session and said, "Deepak, everything seems to be going well." I said, "That's great." She said, "But I have a problem." I go, "You have a problem?" She said, "Yeah. Now I've been invited to so many family gatherings. In fact, I'm at the head table, and I'm not even a family member of all of these family gatherings that I'm being invited to. But I'm invited to so many of them that I'm going to have to say no to at least half of them. And I don't know how to say no because no one ever said yes to me." I said, "You know what? That is an okay problem. I will be happy to help you with that," which I did. So she was able to say no to half the people because she simply didn't have enough hours in a day to go to all those reunions she had. So that was a problem she never had to deal with. And she was happy to live life and excited for each day. So that was a really exciting one. So thank you for mentioning that, Elaine. Yeah, that was a great one. And I have so many stories like that, but that was great. I mean, her whole life changed from where it could have been. And that's what I can do for anyone. So it's never too late because your subconscious doesn't know space and time. Only our conscious mind does. So when you make a change, it's in the moment, and all your subconscious knows is now. There's no end, there's no beginning. It's just now. And that's all. That's the only matter that matters in any time, actually. So that's the way subconscious works. It's like a child. The only problem is we have a Lamborghini, like a very expensive car. And what we did is put this little child, which is running the subconscious, in the driver's seat. And we're sitting in the back seat going, "Ah, the most luxurious car in the world." Suddenly that drive is like a drive from hell. So what we have to do is say, "Sweetie, you're not supposed to be driving this car. Let me put you with the seatbelt, protective seatbelt in the back seat. But you're the fuel to this car. You are the turbo fuel to this car. Without the fuel, I can't go anywhere. But the guidance of it is me. I'm going to drive this car because I know where I want to go. And you can be the fuel and the rocket fuel to take me from one place to another faster than I could ever physically do it myself. You'll create the situations, circumstances, and opportunities and connections energetically. There's no way that I could have manually created them. And you're also the fuel behind my passion and desire. So yeah, that part, you take care of that. And I'll take care of where we drive this thing. Now it's a wonderful drive. So that's essentially the concept behind it. So wonderful. So
Nice.
I just, yeah. So I hope that explained it a little bit better there.
This is the device that is plugged in. There's a USB there. And so this is the device that we use. And so you put your hand on it and then it senses the vibrations. And so Deepak is in San Diego. I'm in Utah. You could be in Pennsylvania and he's in San Diego, and he'd still be able to work with you. But you have to have this device that I guess hooks up to your system somehow.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Elaine. That's what we call the biocommunication hand cradle. This technology is much more advanced than conventional biofeedback. And I'm an advanced biofeedback specialist, but I say biofeedback so people can relate to biofeedback because, oh, I've heard about biofeedback, but it's actually more advanced than that. It's called biocommunication, which means two-way communication. I ask a question to your subconscious through the hand cradle, and your hand is the interface to connect to your subconscious. So your hand, I send a frequency to your hand and ask it a question to your subconscious, like, is it okay if I send frequencies? Your subconscious says, okay, I think I'm okay with that. All right, great. Let me send them to you. And I send them through through her hand into the biocommunication cradle, in which goes into every single cell of your body. Remember, I said 60 trillion cells. And then, but if I ask a question to your subconscious, like, how about this frequency? And your subconscious is not ready yet to receive it. It needs those frequencies, but it's not ready yet. It might say, I'm not ready for that one yet. It'll send a signal back to me, two-way communication. And I'll say, okay, I won't send that right now, but I'll send this one instead. How about that? Yeah, that one is okay. So that's what Elaine was mentioning. That's the interface. So yes, and I would send, that's a device I would send to you, of course. I'll send everything you need. I'll take care of whatever technology, you basically need a computer with Windows. And I, of course, work remotely with people all over the US and all over the world and so many countries as well. So all you need is a computer with Windows. And if you don't have that, I have a workaround, so it's not an issue. That technology, that biocommunication hand cradle, which again, I would ship to you, and a headset. I would tell you which one to get. I'll take care, I'll tell you everything you need. That's not an issue. Just those 3 things is all you need. And we work through Zoom like we're having our conversation today. And we're good to go. It's that straightforward. And you can clear lifelong challenges, issues, traumas, things like, a lot of times people say, well, I'm doing talk therapy. I'm saying these affirmations to myself. And I'm still getting upset when I think of that scene. Because we're trying to use our conscious mind. Remember that tiny part above, that tiny part of the iceberg above the water, which is less than 1% of that whole iceberg? We're trying to use that part to control this huge monstrosity below the water. How's that going to happen? So what I do is I communicate with both of them, because both of them are part of your whole being. And I help unify them together so they communicate together instead of repelling each other. And therefore, the subconscious is on the same page as the conscious mind. And like there's an interface, there's like a handshake, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can let this go now. And I can, because otherwise, if you're trying to do it yourself, there's no way you can know what's below what that place that you're feeling it, and below that, and below that, and below that. With these harmonics, when I store perfect harmony, you don't have to know what caused it or where it came from. I take care of all that. I create harmony so it releases it, because there's no way you could probably even figure it out. What I tell people is you might get an A+ to say, well, it's probably this, this, and this. But then how do I clear it? Well, that's you need the whole thing. But oftentimes you won't even get to that part because there's no way you can figure it out. With harmonics, if it's out of tune or out of harmony, and that's where you get the disturbance of motion. And if I restore harmony, that will clear the disturbance of emotion. So we're doing it from a different kind of concept versus trying to figure everything out. So that's the difference here. And it's very effective. So that kind of gives an overview. So I think you were asking me, Elaine, if I could show you a screenshot. So let me just, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of pull up my software here. And I don't know, would it be okay if I pull up your chart? And the reason I say that is because if I pull up someone else's, I would have to have their permission.
Oh, right.
If you know what I mean. So, I mean, I don't know, or I could just make a blank one or something. Maybe I could do that too. Give me just a moment. Sorry, I just thought I had it loaded here. So in the meantime, while I'm loading this up, is there any questions with what I was just explaining here just earlier, and that I can help answer for you? For anyone there?
I was going to ask a question about long distance.
Yes.
But then Elaine just answered that with the
Thank you, Elaine.
harmonic. So I live in Canada.
Okay, perfect.
So we're quite a distance from you, but that's okay. We can still work together. And I guess you're going to be telling us how we can communicate and how we can work, etc.
That's right. That's right. And absolutely, I can work with anyone anywhere, and there's no loss of frequencies, whether they're in person or a distance. 99% of my clients are remote. You get all the frequencies exactly as if you're sitting right in front of me. And there's another cool thing also. At the end of every session, I will send the harmonics that led to the releases for that session into bottles of water that you keep ready. So that biocommunication hand cradle that Elaine was showing you earlier, that's the one that transmits and sends the signals to your body. I'll have you place some bottles of water near that at the end of the session. And what that will do is wirelessly imprint those special harmonics, which are customized specifically and made for you to release those patterns during their session, into those bottles of water. thus creating a homeopathic remedy that'll carry on between sessions. Generally, I do 1 session a week. I start out with a set of 3 foundational sessions. And from there, I do sets of 2. It generally takes about 7 to 9 sessions to get to a person's core limiting issues in their life, because remember, it's a lifetime of issues. That's just the basic foundation, is, you know, the 7 to 9, just to get, because remember, we have to clear the imprints of your mom, your dad, your grandparents, not necessarily all the grandparents, but some of the key ones that had the highest emotional trigger, which I can measure with my technology, how much, like a heat map. And then also significant events in your life that really, like, oh my God, when this happened in my life, my world fell apart, or, oh, this abuse happened at this age and I never got over that, or I was traumatized when someone yelled at me or hit me or beat me or whatever. Everyone has those times in their life too. So we take care of those as well. Any, I call hotspots or emotional charges, we take care of, besides your parents and some of the key grandparents. When we take care of those key areas, you basically are cleared, okay? But in the journey of going there, we start out with those foundational 3 sessions and then 2 sets of 2. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you are, you'll have a remedy of the whole sessions and those bottles of water at the end of every session. And yeah, it works great. I mean, I've worked with people in all kinds of countries, you know, Europe and Asia and everywhere. So yeah, Canada, I welcome you.
Deepak, I can't.
Another small question.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah.
I had a stroke recently and lost part of my memory. Is there anything that can be done to help in that regard?
Yes. In that area, okay, there's a couple of things. The lady I worked with, I'll say 2 things. The lady I worked with, who Elaine was referring me to talk about today, she was 90. And, you know, imagine the traumas that happened to her happened when I tracked them back to when she was 7 years old. And a teacher she had in the 1920s had told her, "You are ugly. You will never amount to anything. Nobody likes you. And you're, you know," I can't imagine why a teacher would say all that stuff to her, but she did. And so she took that internally. Again, 0 to 7, 0 to 13 is the key imprinting age. And that's what created all those challenging situations in her life, therefore, onwards. But the thing is, for her to remember back that far was a challenge, right? So as we went, because there were some emotional blocks that also came up. So as we went through session after session, she started remembering more and more back, you know, like a few months back, then suddenly a few years back, then suddenly several years back. Then finally I was able to track it back to when she was 7. Sometimes the not remembering things is because of just because it was so traumatic and painful, she didn't want to go there. But regardless, she was, even if it was some other reason, she was able to get back there as I chunked back as we did this harmonic process. If it's some physiological issue or some physical thing or brain issue that's going on, my sister, who I work with, her name is Dr. Chari. She's a medical doctor, and we have a integrative holistic practice where we look for natural, safe, alternative solutions for versus the pharmaceutical approach for different conditions. I think we have a solution for you. I already have something in my head, but because I'm not a medical doctor, I can't say anything. But yes, shall I just say that? Yes, and it's quite
Good,
remarkable. You. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, the answer I do, or we do, I should say. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Well, this has just been absolutely fabulous. By the way, Eileen and Eric, I have individual little direct messages to you, so you can look for those on your chat. We appreciate opening our minds up just a little bit to this world. I can't even imagine the good that you've done, Deepak, with the thousands of people that you've worked with and helping them to release these anxieties and come back to a more honest, real, kind, generous self. So
thank you
for your work, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Elaine. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Emily.
I came at my computer late. In the chat, it doesn't have your website.
Oh, let me see. Okay, you know what? I'll repost it for you. Not a problem. Yeah, that's true.
Thank I can capture it.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead
Thank
and
you.
do that.
I can see
And I
it.
also,
It's up at your
I
top.
know.
Okay, you have to scroll down.
Thank
let me
you.
just see if I can paste it in here.
Mine's totally blank. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think probably if you come in later, you wouldn't see the previous chat. So let me just put that here.
Interesting. Fascinating.
There you go.
Here
Do you
you
see it
are.
now?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Hit file. Hit record. Or save chat. There I go. I got you.
Save chat. You got me.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
wondering as you were talking, I've heard of such things as medical intuitive. Does that play in part of your understanding your biofeedback?
You know, that's a very good question. As I listen to people's voices, when I was first learning, I have sophisticated software and technology that can literally listen to your voice and tap into what's going on in your subconscious and even where you're holding those emotions in your body. But as I've been doing this over the years, remember, I've been doing this for over 17 years. After doing it over and over and over again on thousands of people, then I myself started going, oh, wait a second. I heard that before the computer even did it. Heard that, and so it's a double confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I could be with a group of people and I'm like, I can hear stuff that other people won't hear. And I go, oh, okay. I won't say anything, but okay. Yeah. You know, so into intuition. Yeah. So I can pick it up. So yeah. In answer to your question. So in that sense, yeah, after doing this for a while, I began to hear the harmonics in people and then I will confirm it with my software, you know, as confirmation. So yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is I offer a 30-minute complimentary consult, like you do a Zoom phone consult, where I can explain to you specifically how my program can help you with your specific issues, because everyone has different issues, right? Some people are business executives. They're like kind of stuck at a certain level and they just like, I'm not able to go to the next level. Or some people have sabotage systems. Like every time they want something, they do something to sabotage themselves, whether it's losing weight or getting a new relationship or improving a relationship they're in, or you know, feeling confident about themselves, speaking in front of others or other groups of people, what it is. So I can tell you specifically how my program can help you with whatever unique needs you have. So I offer a 30-minute complimentary session with me. So you can learn more about, you know, you can answer more detailed questions or say, how can it help me with my specific issue? And I can go into more detail about that. So just mentioning that as well. My website, you know, it's fastanxietyhelp.com. And I'll put also just in case, our main office number here on there. I'll just put the phone there. So you can, you know, oh, I didn't put the right number. So that, you know, if you want, you can go ahead and call in, or if you want, you can also email me, and you can email me. This is my email. If you would like to, if you're an email kind of person versus calling me, this is my email, Deepak. See, did that go in there? Yeah, Deepak@charicenter.com. That's my personal email. So if you say, hey, Deepak, I'd like to, you can either call me and just do it, or say, Deepak, I'd like to, you know, have a session with you. What are your available dates and times, and so on and so forth. 30-minute complimentary, and I'll be happy to do that with you too. So that hopefully that answers your question there.
One more question before we leave, Deepak.
Yeah.
What would you say your most common scenario has been, you know, with these people that you've worked with?
Okay. I would say my website name, as you can see, is fastanxietyhelp.com. Anxiety is a very common thing, especially in this current environment we're in, right? Uncertainty, anxiety. So now it's interesting. I would say to people, do you feel stressed? Are you stressed? No. Just a little anxious, worried, you know, a little perturbed about something. And I was like, oh, okay. So in other words, the same word. It's really the same thing. So yeah, anxiety, fear, stress, emotional trauma, depression, grief, self-sabotage, or, you know, they're in a relationship and they're just, they just had a recent breakup, or they're about to break up, or they want to get a new relationship and they feel uncomfortable, like, oh, how can I do this when all my previous relationships were like that? And will I repeat the same thing again? And those are some of the common things I get. But basically what this program can do is help relieve anxiety, stress, depression, help release phobias, improve relationship, personal, family, or business. Definitely it'll boost your self-confidence, improve your public speaking, if that's something you want to do, overcome any traumas you have. And another important thing you asked, a great question, is that it helps you release your reactivity to things that previously would have triggered you. And like every time you see a certain place or you drive by a certain place, you get triggered. You don't know why. This will help release those triggers, at the core, and you're like, oh, now I'm not getting that anymore. It'll help you overcome the trauma of a past experience, divorce, relationships, childhood, adults events, release guilt, shame, or regret from past or recent events. You'll feel a greater sense of peace, joy, and happiness, and you'll be able to focus better, concentrate better. You won't really be so worried about what others think about you as well, because that seems to be a big one as well. And your creativity will be enhanced, and you'll be able to think more, you'll be able to focus better as well. So those are just some of the benefits, if that helps.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaine. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Okay.
It's very fun to have you. We really love it. Maybe we'll have to do it again sometime.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely.
All right.
I'll be
Where
happy
was
to
your
do that.
software developed?
Oh, it was an American gentleman working with another gentleman, and I worked with one of the co-creators, Calvin Young and Dr. Von Cook. And so it was Provo, Utah, actually, where it was developed. It originated from other technologies, from like with Alfred Tomatis and Sherry Edwards, who were some of the original people in voice work. And what they did is they took the concepts of what they did and they took it to a whole new quantum level. And it's divine to see how I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and happened to meet one of the creators of the software. Flew to where I heard a presentation in California, and then I said, may I fly to wherever you are? I'd like to really learn one-on-one with you. And so I flew to Provo, Utah, and learned personally from him, which is not going to happen now because he has all the other health issues and he's no longer working with anyone for the last several years. But I was in the right place at the right time. I learned everything. But because I'm an engineer, I took what I learned and I created my own system for what he taught me. For example, he might have said, use this frequency for this one for this. And I was like, yeah, that's good. But if I tweak this a little bit, I think I can go from point A to point B a little faster and even more eloquently. And if I change this here, maybe I can just, so I would tweak things a little bit. So I took what he taught me and then I made my own system and my own program. And I call my program my Life Transformation Technology Program, which I trademarked. My Life Transformation Technology Program. Why? Because that's what it does. It literally can transform your life. And it involves technology as well. And yes, it does involve when you're asking, does that part of it? Yes, it is. Engineers don't talk about that, but it most certainly is. It tells me what frequency to send to you when and in what sequence. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I just find this incredibly fascinating. It's really wonderful to me, Deepak is able to take all of that stuff underneath the iceberg and put it together in our heads with the top of the iceberg so we can start seeing how it goes together. Not very many people can do that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. Such a pleasure.
All right. We will see you later.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. We'll get this posted out.
Thanks so much for this.
And thank you, everybody. Have you noticed I'm seeing probably about 75 to 80% of real faces now instead of masks. And it's just so nice. And so we can all add these beautiful smiles that you've got to everybody that you see, and smiling will raise their energy and it will raise yours. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.